This is the one you've all been waiting for, and of course we had to deliver. The brand new iPhone 17 Pro Max is entering the ring with its triple 48 megapixel camera system. It's ready to go head to head with the Samsung Galaxy S25 Ultra, which has had a ton of updates since its release, and the freshly launched Google Pixel 10 Pro XL. These three are some of the absolute best of best in smartphone photography, and we're about to find out who takes the crown. Hey, I'm Olive, your host here at Versus.com, and thanks to ESR for sponsoring this video. And before we dive in, we have some massive news. From all of us here at Versus, we want to give you a huge thank you for helping us hit 400,000 subscribers. It's all thanks to you guys, and to celebrate, we're doing a giveaway. But this time, you get to decide what the price is. All you have to do is drop a comment with your dream phone, and the comment with the most likes will make that phone a reality for one lucky winner. Just keep it realistic, okay? We're not about to drop $48.5 million on a Falcon Supernova Pink Diamond iPhone 6. The phone of your choice and how you can snatch it will be announced in our very next video. Now let's get this comparison rolling. For our camera comparisons, we always award points with the maximum number depending on the number of devices in the test. Since this comparison involves 3 devices, the maximum score for each category is 3. We'd also like to add that first, we always evaluate the photos and videos using a calibrated monitor, and second, all of the videos that you'll see here are recorded at 4K 30 FPS. So as always, we'll start off with standard wide photos as we feel that's the mode people use most frequently. The iPhone 17 Pro Max is still rocking a 48 megapixel shooter, which is the same as last year. The Galaxy S25 Ultra packs a massive 200 megapixel cam, and the Google Pixel 10 Pro XL has a 50 megapixel sensor. The Pixel has the widest aperture at f1.6, while the iPhone has the largest sensor at 1/1.28 inches. In this first example, the Galaxy is clearly overexposed, while the Pixel looks overly sharpened, which isn't flattering either. The iPhone delivers the most natural result with pleasing colors and good dynamic range. Once again, the Galaxy and Pixel shots aren't bad, but Samsung pushes the saturation too far and the Pixel looks overly sharp. The iPhone nails the colors and comes across as the most true to life. In this final indoor example, all 3 phones deliver very similar results with only minor differences in skin tone, saturation, and overall warmth. Now let's move on to a few ultra-wide examples. Ultra-wide is a great mode to capture more of the scenery in your photos. Here, the iPhone and the Pixel both have 48 megapixel lenses, while the Galaxy has a slightly larger 50 megapixel sensor. On paper, however, the Pixel offers the widest field of view. For us, the Galaxy is the weakest here. Its white balance is a little off, giving you a sky that looks way too cyan. Both the iPhone and the Pixel look much more natural and are almost identical, keeping great control on the highlights. In this shot, we have to say the Galaxy and the Pixel both look more true to life, even though I'm a bit dark because I was standing in the shade. The iPhone, on the other hand, clearly applies a mask over me to boost exposure, so whether you prefer that processed look or something more natural is totally up to you. In indoor conditions, you can immediately spot the Galaxy as it absolutely always turns our gray curtains purple. The Pixel definitely looks more natural, but the greens are a bit too blue. Overall, the iPhone has the best tone and detail in this shot. Favorite mode detected, and that is portrait mode. Let's put these bad boys to the test and see which one gives us the most professional looking results whilst having the best edge detection. At one times, portraits look fine at first glance, but the shortcomings stand out once you check the details. The Pixel fares worst with overly warm tones and sloppy edge detection. The iPhone isn't much better, adding a warm cast and even smudging part of the book title. Samsung comes out on top here with the most natural skin tones and impressively accurate edge detection. At portrait zoom, 3 times on the Galaxy and the Pixel, 4 times on the iPhone. The Pixel delivers the weakest result, relying on digital zoom from the main camera instead of its telephoto. Samsung does a bit better, but still trails. The iPhone comes out ahead with edge detection that isn't perfect, but clearly the strongest of the 3. It is time to test out the front camera, which means I've got to take a bunch of selfies and see which one of these makes me look the best. At the top of these screens, the iPhone has a brand new 18 megapixel shooter with a new sensor that lets you capture vertical, square, or horizontal shots without having to make the effort of rotating your wrist at all. The Galaxy comes with a traditional 12 megapixel camera, while the Pixel goes all in on megapixels with a 42 megapixel sensor. Of the bunch, the iPhone has the widest aperture. The Galaxy's front camera is not as wide, which is a clear drawback, especially now that the iPhone introduces the first square front camera sensor that brings more flexibility for selfies and videos. The Pixel offers wider framing as well, but it unfortunately washes out skin tones. In low light, the situation is similar. The Galaxy shots aren't bad, but the tighter crop is an immediate drawback. Between the Pixel and the iPhone, the difference mainly comes down to warmth and skin tones, so it is largely a matter of personal preference. Just so you know, the iPhone 17 Pro Max ditched the titanium for a super tough full aluminium body. But if you're still worried about breaking it or you're just a little clumsy, you can of course slap a case on it, just like this super resistant ESR Cyber Tough magnetic case. It's got a strong PC back, a soft TPE shell, and an inner poron lining, which protects all of your iPhone's most vulnerable spots. Altogether, it offers 7 times military-grade protection from drops up to 23 meters high. That's much higher than this. So your phone stays looking flawless, drop after drop after drop. And the raised zinc alloy camera guard not only protects your iPhone's wide camera bar, but it also doubles as a stand. You can go vertical or horizontal and adjust the angle from just 15 degrees all the way up to 69 degrees. That's pretty nice. Plus, it won't wobble when you're typing. And don't worry, all that toughness won't mess with MagSafe. It actually makes it even better with a magnetic strength of 1,500 grams. So your accessories won't fly right off. And for just $26.99, protecting your shiny new investment is a total steal. So slide to the description below for a link to the ESR Cyber Tough case and other ESR cases just like this hybrid case for the iPhone 17 Air, which also comes with a camera guard stand but lets everyone know in which color you picked your iPhone. So with ESR, your phone stays brand new no matter where you go. All right, where were we? Oh yeah. So as you saw, although Samsung looks great, its main limitation is the tighter framing, which is not a huge issue, but we prefer having more of the scene in view. Other than that, the iPhone runs a bit too warm indoors yet looks accurate outdoors, while the Pixel tends to slightly overexpose indoors but keeps good exposure outside. So now let's test out the audio on all of these devices. We'll start off with the brand new 17 Pro Max. What do you guys think? How do I sound over here? Again, in a relatively busy area, so is it canceling out that noise well? Then let's move on to the S25 Ultra. Is it any better than the iPhone? What do you guys think? It's a little quieter now, so it should be doing a pretty good job. And finally, we've got the Google Pixel 10 Pro XL, another newbie over here. What do you guys think? How do I sound? As always, let's talk about it. Indoors, all phones sounded great, but when you move outdoors, the comparison becomes tougher since the iPhone and the Pixel each have trade-offs. The Pixel cancels noise better but sounds muffled, while the iPhone lets in more background noise yet keeps the voice clearer. Samsung, in our opinion, offers the cleanest and most direct audio. Great video quality is absolutely crucial when it comes to your smartphone. So let's put these beasts to the test and see which one does it best. For maximum video resolution with the main camera, the iPhone can shoot 4K at a super high 120 FPS. The Galaxy goes all in on resolution with a huge 8K at 30 FPS. The Pixel, meanwhile, is capped at 4K 60 FPS, and yes, we know you can get 8K on the Pixel with Video Boost, but that's not on device. In outdoor video, the Pixel comes in last, showing basically no improvements and still looking overly smooth and flat. The iPhone, on the other hand, looks miles better with rich contrast, but it weirdly gives my skin a very yellow tone and completely burns out the highlights in the background. The Galaxy is honestly the most balanced and realistic here. Indoors, it's pretty much the same story. The Pixel has that really flat, smooth footage, while the iPhone almost turns me into a Simpson character. The Galaxy captures the most authentic colors and surprisingly doesn't turn our curtains purple for once. Now, when it comes to portrait mode video, also known as cinematic mode, the iPhone and the Galaxy can both shoot in 4K 4K at 30 FPS. The Pixel, however, is capped at a pretty low 1080p at 30 FPS. Background blur is definitely the weakest on the Galaxy. It doesn't even kick in unless I'm really close to the camera. Both the Pixel and the iPhone have very comparable edge detection, but the iPhone has the best look overall, also thanks to its higher resolution. Switching over to ultra-wide video, all of these phones can record at a maximum of 4K 60 FPS, except for the Galaxy, which can also shoot 8K 30 FPS with this lens. Weirdly enough, the Galaxy is the weakest here, with blown out highlights when transitioning to a darker area and over-boosted saturation. Interestingly, the iPhone and the Pixel look pretty good, but unfortunately the iPhone has a lot of noise in the shadows, and the Pixel's footage is still very smooth, which keeps them from getting a perfect score. But once we move indoors, the Pixel once again drops to last place with a super desaturated and smooth video. The iPhone and the Galaxy actually look very similar at first, but the Galaxy is back to changing the color of our curtain, while the iPhone, even though a tiny bit warm, is more true to life. Buttery smooth video footage is an absolute must, so that means we've come to stabilization. During a simple walk, the iPhone surprisingly has some minor jittering with every single step, but the Galaxy and the Pixel both look far more stable with almost gimbal-like smoothness. When we kick it up a notch with active stabilization on and running, the iPhone still has some shaking, while the Pixel develops this weird horizontal wavy effect, almost like jello. The Samsung Galaxy S25 Ultra, though, stays super stable without any of that weird distortion or shakiness. So it is time to experiment with zoom, which is always a very exciting category, so let's put these to the test and see which one gives us the most detailed results. The iPhone has a brand new 48 megapixel periscope telephoto lens with 4x optical zoom. The Galaxy comes with its classic double setup, a 10 megapixel telephoto with 3x optical zoom, and a second 50 megapixel periscope telephoto with 5x optical zoom. And the Pixel, like the iPhone, also has a 48 megapixel periscope telephoto, but with 5x optical zoom. When you're at the optical zoom distances, they all look pretty similar. There are some slight changes in white balance, but the detail is basically the same across the board. When we push it to 10 times digital zoom, the iPhone and the Pixel are pretty much at the same detail level, while the Galaxy shows more detail, though it can be a bit over-sharpened for some. At 20 times digital zoom, the iPhone and the Pixel still look identical, but the Galaxy starts pushing the limits of what's acceptable with over-sharpening. Just so you know, the maximum zoom levels are 40 times on the iPhone and a massive 100 times on both the Galaxy and the Pixel. This is a bit controversial because the Pixel does present a more detailed shot, but it's pretty much a photo with AI magic slapped on top of it. So whether you think that's a good thing is up to you. Either way, when it comes to raw zoom power, the Galaxy and the Pixel are still your best bets. Slow-mo is not a necessity to have on your smartphone, but it's definitely a cool feature, so let's test it out. For this test, we always start by checking the maximum resolution available. The iPhone and the Galaxy can both shoot at a stunning 4K at 120 FPS, but the Pixel is limited to just 1080p at 120 FPS. Without a doubt, the Pixel comes in last place here. That lower resolution really affects the quality compared to the 4K on the iPhone and the Galaxy. Between those two, the Galaxy loses some detail in the highlights, giving the iPhone the edge. Next, we test the maximum frame rate, which is 240 FPS for all three phones, all at 1080p resolution. In this video of my colleague Arnaud losing his keys, even though all three have the same resolution, the Pixel unsurprisingly looks rough. However, the Galaxy isn't much better, as it absolutely over-sharpens the whole enchilada. The iPhone, while not perfect, definitely comes out on top as the best in this test. It's time to get up close and personal and test out macro mode. Let's see if the iPhone 17 Pro Max has improved it. At really close distances, the Galaxy goes a bit crazy with its white balance, giving us a really cold shot. And while the Pixel gets much closer to the true color of this geranium, the iPhone captures the most precise colors and biggest amount of detail. However, when we switch to the zoom lenses to try out macro, the Pixel is the only one that can actually focus on this flower at rather short distances. The other two completely failing. Finally, let's see how these phones perform in low light conditions. With the main camera, the iPhone and the Galaxy are a bit of a tie, but for different reasons. The iPhone tends to overlift the shadows, while the Galaxy's photos are just very smoothed out. The Pixel, on the other hand, actually preserves the greatest amount of detail and keeps a more authentic night vibe. With the ultra-wide cameras, all three lose a fair amount of detail, but the iPhone lands in last place with overly smooth textures. Both the Galaxy and the Pixel look pretty similar, but this time, the Galaxy lifts the shadows the most, while the Pixel once again gives you a more low-light feel. Switching gears to portrait mode, the Pixel's edge detection is, as usual, not the best, and its colors are overly saturated. The iPhone has good colors, but a lot of noise, while the Galaxy has solid noise reduction, but a very cold white balance. Tapping into the telephoto lenses, the roles completely reverse. The iPhone and the Galaxy are both very smooth, plus the iPhone is very saturated, while the Galaxy still has an extremely blue tint. While definitely not perfect, the Pixel retains the most detail and the most correct colors this time round. Now for video, I'm not sure if I even have to say it, but here there are really no surprises. The Pixel is just not it. The Galaxy isn't as bad, but the iPhone defo performs the best, balancing colors and exposure more seamlessly as the framing and illumination change. And we're finishing off with something really weird here. For ultra-wide video, the iPhone and the Galaxy are the worst contenders, especially when I walk into darker areas of the office. The Pixel, we absolutely agree, looks super washed out, but it is the only one that gathers detail in both dark and dim areas without crushing detail, which is something we were really not expecting. Alright, let's do a quick summary and, like Scooby-Doo, uncover who the winner is. Our scoring system is based on order of importance, giving higher percentages to more popular categories like wide, ultra-wide, portrait, and video, while assigning lower percentages to less popular categories such as audio, zoom, slow motion, and macro. For example, for main camera photos, the iPhone scored 9 general points, and since that's worth 20%, it gets 1.8 final points, and so on with the next phones and categories. So going through all categories, the iPhone was the best in main photos. For portrait, the iPhone and the Galaxy tied. Video was a clear winner for the iPhone, while stabilization was taken by the Galaxy. For front camera photos and videos, the iPhone scored the most, while for audio, the Galaxy was the best. For zoom, there's no doubt the Galaxy and the Pixel are the top contenders. Slow motion was another win for the iPhone, whereas for macro and low light, the Pixel delivered the best shots. First place with a decisive win, we have the iPhone 17 Pro Max. Now, before you keyboard warriors start raging, its huge advantage in video really sealed the deal over the rest. On top of that, it was the most consistent of the three. Both the Galaxy and the Pixel sometimes delivered some unfamiliar looking shots that were far from their usual style. But we have to say, these are still some of the best phones on the market. In reality, any of them will be more than enough for you. So, what do you think? Are these photos and videos enough to make you switch to one of these new phones? Or are you happy keeping your older device for a bit longer? Let us know in the comments below. Oh, and be sure to stay tuned for our full in-depth review coming out really soon. In the meantime, if you want to take a closer look at any of these giants, be sure to check out direct links in the description below, along with links for ESR cases in case you're planning on getting a brand new iPhone 17 series. And before you go and check if your ex saw your Insta story, be sure to give this video a big thumbs up if you enjoyed it, and subscribe as we are always testing new devices to help you decide what is best for you. We'll see you in our next video, and until then, take care.